I have so many thoughts swirling in my head about what direction I want to take this video. But this morning I had a full spine MRI. My new neurologist ordered it just to ensure that I don't have any drop metastases from the brain tumor that I currently have. I had a craniotomy in 2014, so I've had yearly MRIs since then, and my last scan of my brain looked stable and fine. And I feel like it's more precautionary. My last full spine MRI was 3 years ago, so he just wanted an update to see how everything was going. But during this MRI, the IV that they put in to put the contrast in was very painful. My arm was throbbing. It was probably one of the worst ones that I've had. And normally during my MRIs, I pray the rosary. It's something that helps pass the time. I just count on my fingers because you can't have anything metal. I don't take anything plastic or anything in with me at all. You probably could take a plastic rosary, but I count my fingers for the Hail Marys. And today, as I was praying that, I was thinking a lot about the victims of the Texas floods at the Mystic River Camp. Um, yeah, the 27 little girls that are missing, a few of them have been found deceased. The boys that were at, was it La Junta camp, that the Eagle Scouts, all of them got out alive, acknowledging the survivors and acknowledging the heartache and the loss that's going on. And just right, that feeling in my arm, that thinking of those little girls and their parents, just thinking about the flood coming through their cabins, and the how much pressure must have been on the water, the girls that maybe hit the walls on the way out, that they had injuries on their bodies just from the force of the current, running into trees, running into other debris. And so I was just taking that pain and offering it for the suffering of those parents, of those little girls, thinking about, like purgatory and the afterlife. This was a Christian camp. A lot of these parents believe that their children are in heaven now, which I would pray and beg God for the mercy to welcome them in. Right, the theologies of what constitutes somebody to go directly to heaven is interesting. These children were likely not baptized at birth because I believe it was a Protestant camp. So it's an interesting facet because they were, 7, 8, 9 year olds. So some of them within that age of reason. But when you're being taught a certain thing by your parents, what's the culpability level that God will hold us to for the awareness of levels of knowledge that we have? It's kind of hard to say. So a lot of my prayers just for those little girls, and that grace and mercy from God and the hope and peace of the resurrection of God incarnate in heaven, all those pieces, that the parents would be able to feel peace and reside in the hope that God is a merciful God and would extend his grace to these young children whose lives were very abruptly taken. My mind also thinks about years ago, right? 10 years ago, when the national forest fires occurred on National Coming Out Day. And I said that these fires were attributed to, the debauchery basically that was going on, right? We think about Sodom and Gomorrah, the lawlessness, God's upsettedness at sexual immorality, all these pieces. And I think about that, and then I think about this, and I've seen a few things on X, different tweets. They call them tweets now, different threads on X, where it talks about, God, basically karma coming around, God saying that MAGA is bad and he's angry with them. And so they're basically getting what they deserve because they voted for this, so taking money away from the National Weather Service, and just a lot of blame all around. And it has me thinking a lot about that comment 5 years ago, about that video that I had made about National Coming Out Day and the wildfires. And right. I think that God, it, right. It's so philosophy and theology just with where I'm at today. It's interesting how God's permissive will and his implicit will, his direct will, are so different. Like, what is he causing to happen and what does he allow to happen? How do we discern the differences between those things? Because I definitely don't. This like alligator Alcatraz, is that what they're calling it? Um, right, just this idea of like treating human beings inhumanely without due process. Like for me, the first question I have is, are the people who would be arriving at this facility, are they truly receiving due process? Are they, I understand that they might not be they might not be legal. They're immigrants and they don't have their papers. And so I could see this current administration justifying that justice for all is only applicable to legal citizens. And that's what makes me feel like maybe the people that would go there would potentially not receive true due process, judge and a juror innocent until proven guilty type of thing, that there would be a natural assumption of wronghood within them because of their immigration status. It's not to say that some heinous criminals may not wind up there, but all it takes, this is one of the reasons that the Catholic Church does not approve of the death penalty, is because we cannot be completely sure, like, what if an innocent person is killed? What if their life is ended? There is that side of me that does believe, with the death penalty occurring in places, there is that part of me that's like, well, if an innocent person is killed, then, right, like God has that mercy on them. Even if a guilty person is killed, that God still, there can still be that last minute turning away, just like the thief on the cross, right? There is that opportunity for this last minute repentance of what has occurred, and God can have mercy on whomever he chooses to have mercy. So when I think about the national catastrophes, right? Catastrophic weather events. I don't believe, and right, like I said, there are a million different thoughts in my brain. I didn't know what direction I wanted this video to take, anything like that. I just know that my brain is in a lot of different areas right now. But with catastrophic weather issues, it's interesting to be like, what is implicit and what is, what is permissive, what's just being allowed. Like, why did these young girls have to die? Why, in the wildfires 5 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever that occurred on National Coming Out Day, like, how many people died in that? I don't even know. I would have to look it up. But like, did young children lose their lives there? Like, what mothers, what dads, right? Why do bad things happen to good people? I have a video on that and try to justify it in some way. It's probably 5 years old. I actually thought about watching it before this video. I feel so sad. I didn't know I would feel so sad. But my heart is just so heavy seeing all pictures of those little girls, thinking of their families, wanting to just hold their bodies, give them hugs. I think about my daughters. My oldest is 6. She's right on that cusp of the age of the 7 to 8 year olds that were in the cabin that got washed away. And right, I think it's very hard. I think about, right, Sodom and Gomorrah in and of itself in the Bible, just biblically, that the whole city was destroyed. And there was that request of, if I can just find one person, will you spare the city? But when they left Sodom and Gomorrah, and he said, anyone who looks back will turn to salt. And how many lives were killed then? It said that he spared the innocent. When Noah got on the ark, only he and his family were spared. And how many children were then killed in that? Was it because they were going to be raised in lawlessness and there wasn't any sense of direction or accountability? Was it just completely lost? There was absolutely no hope. Like, how could there be no hope? Because, right, why couldn't God intervene and make himself more known? I think that there are a lot of questions that we grapple with in life. And I think in the past, I've really tried to have the answers I've put a lot of content out there. I've explained why the church teaches certain things. I've explained, my perspective and philosophy on a lot of different avenues of countless topics. I don't know if there are any that I haven't covered at some point in the last 10 years. So, but as it stands, I don't have the answers. I can't tell you. I wish that I could. I wish that anyone could really. You can remove emotion and you can become stoic and logical and say, well, this is how it is and this is why it's that way. And you can do that all day long, but you have to have that emotional humanity piece in order to fully understand the grandeur of what's going on. So when I think about Alligator, Alcatraz, and I think about, these different things, how would I say that God caused the rains to fall to punish it that? I don't think so. I also don't think that I would necessarily say that he sent the wildfires for National Coming Out Day. Um, you know, but is God unhappy with the way that the world is? Is he sad and angry and frustrated and whatever that people aren't choosing him? And so, right, is that happening? Or is this his permissive will and it's the devil causing just catastrophic events, seemingly mindless? Is it, you think of Job. That's what I think of anytime I think of losing a child or losing somebody very close to you. Something that's just like heart-wrenching. I think of Job. I think of him just losing everything. And right, I think of him, and I think of the idea of God knowing how secure his true followers are, and him saying, have at it. Like, they aren't going to abandon me. They will not, like, they aren't going to, they aren't going to leave. Because as the disciples say, it's like, where else am I going to go? Of course, like, you're all I have. How can there be anything else, right? And so that's kind of where I'm at with a lot of my faith right now. I've had a very tough year. It really drives me crazy that I still have to get these MRIs. I wish that I didn't have to. They're expensive. The current health insurance that we have is not that great. The house that we moved into is like a little bit more expensive than our prior house. It's not that much more, but at the same time, it feels like it's more somehow. I don't know if it's the taxes. Well, the taxes are about the same, but the bills, like to heat and cool it. But just like, there's just so much pressure from all of the avenues. And then, right, to have to like go get this MRI, pay a, $1,500 bill because we have 80/20 insurance after the deductible, which I've met the deductible already this year because I already had one MRI this year prior. And just overall, just trying to navigate life. But that's where I am with all of it, with Alec, with, my kids, with just, I don't know. It's like, where else can I go? Like, I have to seek you in the Eucharist. I have to keep coming back because I believe that it is true. And I just have to like surrender and trust and like pray that somehow your peace can be known in my life, that somehow your peace can be known in all of these people's lives, that somehow, you can bring healing and restoration. Because, right, I don't think that anybody deserves that type of thing. Like, right, 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, whatever. Like, I think back to like 2014, prior to my brain surgery, or even immediately after, for like a few years, prior to probably becoming a mom. I think becoming a mom was probably a big turning point for me in like understanding human emotions, wanting to be present, like truly heal. Like, I did a lot of healing through the years, but just being able to see a human being for who they are and seeing that development, and then having my second born, and then having the twins, and just seeing the differences in personality and all of that kind of stuff, really helped me to see how much just it all kind of ties together, and how individual we all are, and how we do have different needs. And, my parents did treat us all differently. but it was a very hectic and kind of chaotic household, and my parents didn't know any different. And they would even still say, I talked to them I don't know, a couple months ago, I said, I really want to write this book, but I feel like if I write it, I have to talk about some of the stuff that happened when I was growing up. And they said, well, I don't think anything that happened in this house is like that far out of the ordinary. And I really think that some of it was, I don't think that a lot of it was typical. And so, right, I had a lot of mindsets that were drilled into my head. There were comments that I would make through high school and things like that. Just, that I don't believe and that I don't agree with. I don't think that gay people automatically go to hell. I don't think that God is like that. I think God's a merciful God who looks at where we come from. My understanding of God is very different. I mean, one of the skits that I did recently was an authoritarian parent saying, like, you will obey me while you live under this roof. I am your God. And that is something that my mom said to me when I was in 8th grade. She told me that as long as I lived under her roof, she was my God and God could not speak directly to me. And so that type of kind of domineering perspective really influenced a lot of my thought processes in a black and white type of way. Whereas I do think that there is very much a middle ground in seeing someone's humanity and having compassion and understanding and trying to see where they're coming from. And I also think that the pendulum of authoritarian and permissive is very real, and it can be very hard to find that middle ground. And I think that, everyone keeps blaming, back to the immigration stuff, Alligator, Alcatraz. Everyone keeps blaming the Biden administration for being so permissive. So now they're taking this full pendulum swing to this authoritarian stance of this is what's going to happen, because I think that in that permissiveness, there were levels of authoritarianism in how people should be viewing it. But it doesn't even make sense because, right, I mean, President Obama had deported how many people? I mean, right, millions, right? And it's just like deportation, like nobody believes that there should be like that the process to become a legal citizen, a legal immigrant in the United States. Anyone who's ever been in the presidential position believes that that's true, that should be the case. It's just, how do you get there? How do you get to the point that you're protecting your borders well? So now President Trump has taken this authoritarian regime to kind of correct the permissiveness of how many people have gotten into our country by sneaking in. So this pendulum swing, right? And you see it in parenting a lot too, with parents who are permissive, and then suddenly they like put the hammer down and now I can't take it anymore. Now I'm gonna be like, okay, yeah, this is great. Yeah, you can paint on the wall, you can paint on the wall. Why is the wall so dirty? Blah, blah, blah. Right? There's a swing. It's a pendulum swing, and finding that actual balance. Like they would say, the homeostasis of it all, balancing the freedom and liberties that we intrinsically have as humans with rules and laws and, guidance. How do you balance those two things? How do you balance the emotional and the logical to come together in a way that there can be true unity and health? Because right now, like, the word Catholic means universal. I believe in one holy Catholic and apostolic church. The universal would have to mean unity. When you lack unity, when there is discord, there is chaos and confusion, and God is not the author of chaos. And so when we're looking at all of these things, all of these pieces, national disasters, and just the turmoil, the lawlessness that is just going on in general in this country, we are the land of the free and the home of the brave, right? But we're the home of the brave, but we're the land of the free. I've been thinking a lot about free will and how God wants us to have free will. And I think in America, in the United States, we have that ability. Anybody can speak about anything. You can say that you feel unsafe or not. And that's like part of what comes into free will, right? You have the freedom to live as you have, and somebody else has the freedom to live as they are. And that clashes because your ideals aren't the same, because there's a lack of unity, there's a lack of understanding, there's a lack of kinship, there's a lack of brotherhood or familial things when you start having people in leadership positions who are claiming to be Catholic saying that we should love our family first and like then other people like second, basically have this hierarchy. And while I do see that in some capacity, I talked about that last week about how, you know, we have to love differently because we interact more with the people that we live with. But there should be the same level of seeing of humanity in somebody else. But if you can't even see that in your own kids, if you can't see that in your family members, to say, wow, this person has faced a whole life outside of what I've experienced, they've experienced something entirely different that's brought them to today. If you can't even see that with who you live with, how the heck are you supposed to see that with a person across the street or somebody who's, you know, murdered somebody else after crossing the border illegally? How are you going to see that in them if you can't even see it in your spouse or your child, right? So it all starts at home. That's what Mother Teresa said, right? Love starts in the home. And I just think that that is where it starts, and then everything else is an extension of that. And I just think that, you know, who knows what's causing these catastrophic events, you know, climate change or whatever. Who knows whether it's God or the devil or, you know, right? People who aren't even Christian would say it's its own thing, but I believe that there is some sort of rhyme or reason to the universe and our lives. I deeply, truly hold that belief. I do believe that Jesus rose from the dead, that he will return again one day. And I think that that's a very critical and pivotal point of Christianity and our life. So anyway, all that from a painful IV needle from my MRI this morning, right? And it was an hour and 15 minutes long, which I have had MRIs before. My last full spine MRI, I feel like took 2 hours, but I don't know. So this one went really quick. I was grateful that it wasn't super long, but also I was willing to be in there and have that in as long as I needed to. This lymph node is like hard and, I don't want to have to go get another biopsy. I don't even remember. I think, is this the one that they biopsied last time? I don't know what's going on. Hopefully, I always pray for accurate results. If you're willing to offer a prayer for me. I have Patreon. I'm still working on getting my little postcards out. This is kind of what they look like. This one cut wrong, but I'm doing paintings and stuff, and so I made copies on cardstock paper. I got a colored printer so that I could do this, and it's like a second hand. I think I spent $50 on it on Marketplace. Maybe it was $40. And I got color ink for it, so it works. It's great. And I'm doing postcards to patrons at the $15 tier and higher. It's a friends tier. So if you're interested in joining, know that you would be getting one of these cards this month. And then as I paint new things, I'm going to be doing different, whatever my favorite painting was of the month. There's another color too that's going out. I don't think I have one of those here though. So, but yeah, so those are, this month is the rosary that I quickly painted, and my daughter said, it's so beautiful. I've been trying to do a rosary. And she actually did her own little coloring thing that she was very, very proud of, but I don't have that here either. So, but yeah, so prayers I just always pray that, for accurate results, not necessarily that it's clear, not necessarily whatever, I think I prayed so hard for a miracle for my first brain tumor to go away so I wouldn't need the craniotomy. And when that didn't go, I just kind of shifted more toward accuracy and just put me in the right hands, give us the right protocols, like whatever it is that, I'm here to serve you, communion song at Mass today was Here I Am, Lord. Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, if you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart. Right? So it's like, here I am, like whatever you want, I will go where you call. I will like just put your spirit in my heart, please. Allow me to seek your will, your goodness. Help me to seek unity and togetherness in whatever way possible. Help me to be willing to confront hard topics that have a lot of nuance and complexity, even though some of the things I say will be taken out of context. Like, help me still meet your people where they need to be met. Help me still have the bravery and the gumption and whatever it might be to show up in the way that you want me to show up, which is honestly a very fluid and natural thought progression that is authentic and in like it's integrous. It has the integrity of myself. This is who I am, showing up as me. I'm not going to do highly edited videos. I don't want to. It's not who I am. It's not who I've ever been. And if you're looking for that, you're going to have to watch a different channel, because around here we get to know Allie Marie, and this is who I am, and I am showing up for you. And I'm glad that you're here. I would be happy to see you on Patreon. And yeah, and maybe I'll put my Venmo down below too, because I know some people, you don't want to do like a, long-term commitment or whatever else. But yeah, so anything helps right now. Like I said, we're very stressed. Money is going out faster than it's coming in. And like these bills with the MRI and this and that, I'm not going to do a GoFundMe. Don't want to. Like, we can make ends meet. It's just stressful, right? So, and I know that that's the way for everybody. And I'm just putting myself out here. And so I don't know. I'm trusting that the Lord is going to take care of us. It will all be okay. Just have to take a breath and just pray for his guidance, pray for his wisdom. And I am absolutely praying the same for you. May he guide you and offer his wisdom to you. May his spirit reside in your heart. And may we find a way toward unity together, because that is the only way that we are going to be able to experience peace with each other. Like, we can experience the peace of Christ in our hearts, but how much more is that peace when it's in community? And so that's what I want for us. I want us to be at peace, and I want us to grow in that togetherness and to find that common ground and to see where it is that the Lord, where the Holy Spirit is moving, and let's experience that together. So God bless you. Please continue praying for those families down in Texas. That is my strongest thing right now. I may do a live rosary on TikTok. Maybe I'll do a couple, but stay on the path. Keep going. I'll talk to you soon.